Biz School is brought to you by Neon Canvas. Neon Canvas is a digital marketing boutique located in Memphis, Tennessee. To learn more about Neon Canvas, visit neoncanvas.com.
Welcome, here it goes. This is the 14th episode of Biz School with Alex Rasmussen, and today we're going to be talking about networking and real estate with Morgan Tate, good friend of mine. We went to Christian Brothers High School together. Morgan's from Memphis. He's the principal property manager of River City Land Company, a real estate brokerage and property management firm based here in Memphis, Tennessee. Morgan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for
Glad to have
me.
you. Yeah, man. So tell me about your role at River City Land Company. What do you do day to day?
Day to day, every day is different. That's what makes it so fun. It can be stressful, but it can be very rewarding. Started the property management side in 2012. Back then, I was doing everything. I was doing the showings. I was scheduling. I was signing leases. I was going out on maintenance calls. Not saying I was going to do the maintenance work, but I'd go and look at what needed to be done and then send the right person. So I was staying extremely busy. You know, when people are moving in, I'm meeting them at the house. When people are moving out, I'm meeting them at the house. And as we've grown over the last, 9 years, I've had to delegate a lot of that. And, as we grow, I hire new people, but I have to find the person that I trust to do those roles the right way. So the first person I hired was my mother. I hired her in 2016. She was just retired from Shelby County government and had plenty of free time. So she got her real estate license, became our primary leasing agent. After that, I figured I should hire my brother. So he came on, got his real estate license, and he also is a leasing agent. And they make their own hours. Because most people looking at properties want to see them in the evenings and weekends and stuff. So you got to be flexible and be able to, you can't just say, I can only show from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. You got to be flexible on that. But it does take a team. So I figured, I'd then hire my father-in-law. He'd recently retired, and I just brought him on as our new maintenance coordinator. So got to keep it all in the family. But, when you have people you can trust that work with you and they're better at doing it than I am, it makes, when I hire somebody, I want to hire them, they're more organized than me. They're better at a certain job than I am. I have full confidence in them and their roles. So, but every day in property management is completely different. You throw COVID in and everything we've had to do over the last year. And then, a month ago we had the ice storms that, you're dealing with. So every day is different. And, it's very, can be challenging. Like I said, it can be very rewarding.
So talk to me about 9 years in business, going on 10. How many properties are you managing, and how do you get these properties under management?
We are about 850 houses right now. I was looking at since January 1st of this year, we've added 45 new properties. Most of it's all referral. I mean, it's all just constant referrals.
And what's that occupancy rate on?
Our occupancy rate is, we have probably 14 properties that are actively being marketed. We have another 10 that are vacant, but we have signed leases and deposits on. So, our vacancy rate, 95, 97%.
Yeah. And why is it that Memphis is such a great market for that? And talk about how your network of getting those 850 properties and filling them up and those referrals work into that.
Well, Memphis makes a great market. In March, when everything, mid-March last year, I didn't know what to think when COVID came about. All the essential workers are the only people that can be out and everything. And I got to realize how many of our tenants in Memphis, our built-in tenant base, are essential workers, with the trucking industries here and FedEx and all the medical, jobs here. And so when everything happened a year ago, most of our tenants continue to pay. And you hear about things in other parts of the country where certain industries are hit much harder. Memphis it's kind of like the Grizzlies, kind of the grit and grind. We had tenants that kept paying because they were essential workers and they kept working, and their jobs are here. I mean, as you have the Amazons coming in, but all the other distribution facilities that are here simply, I mean, a lot of them simply because of FedEx, but those built-in jobs are here. And, the referrals, I think now, I mean, as we've grown and grown as a company, people are calling us just to see what we have. I mean, they're going to our website they want to rent from us. And our retention rate with tenants is extremely high. It's extreme. It's very rare that you see a tenant move out after a year. Usually they're there 2, 3, 4 years. I mean, we have tenants that are coming on 7 and 8 years at properties, but the referral base, from that refers us the owners and the properties has been great. And we've been working with one group since 2014, and they've referred us over 400 houses.
Yeah, and talk about that relationship. So how do you use your network to tap into a referral relationship and then nurture that into business?
Well, you always, in any line of work, you want your friends and family to know what you do. And once they know what you do, they can, help you build people want you to be successful, So having a group of maybe, all my friends that went to Christian Brothers or the friends from Tennessee, and, you can call somebody and ask them, so many of the people, local people that I manage property for are just frankly classmates that have called. And they know what I do for a living, and they've got some rental properties, and that's it's nice to have.
Yeah. And when we think about networking and we just think about it as a whole, the first thing you said that really dawned on me is people need to know what you do.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that people know what you do?
Well, I'm not going out telling everybody what I do for a living, but, I think that is a good question. I'm not posting on Facebook all the time, but I probably should, but I don't.
Right.
That is a good question. I tell people what I do if they ask.
Yeah. I think that's where the LinkedIn's and the Facebook and Instagram and really having your own personal brand, especially as a business owner, can be so beneficial to you because people do know exactly what your services are. Mm-hmm. One of the things I think with Neon Canvas we hear a lot is like, oh yeah, you guys have a lot of doctors, and that's true, we do, but we also have builders, landscapers, roofers, plastic surgeons. We've got a lot of different people that we can service in our industry, and the more that people hear that and know that, the more likely you are to end up with those clients.
Yeah.
So talk about how the pandemic has changed the way you do business. You mentioned that.
Well, working, if people need to be on payment plans because they really were affected, we initially jumped into that and got with our owners, got with the people that were directly impacted that had reached out to us, and we set them up on payment plans, whether it was giving them discounts or letting them skip a month or letting them spread out payments over a certain amount of time. And it really, most people followed through with the plans, and they appreciated us working with them. But one thing, I used to always sign leases in the office. People used to come, and we'd set up an appointment, and they'd come to the office, they'd sign leases, and I'd sit there with them and meet them. And a lot of times for me, that was the only time I was getting to meet people because I'm not out showing the properties and I'm not moving them in or going out there when there's issues. So that was a time I could spend meeting people. But then when the pandemic hit, we weren't bringing people into the office. So everything, even the new lease signings, all went to DocuSign. So that was just a change, and it's something I think really works out. And people are very busy, and if they have to come and take an hour to come sign a lease, it's a lot of their time. So people can sign it at home, and it's something we'll probably continue to do. Yeah. We can spend our time on other things to help grow the business and make things better for the business. I always want to look to improve, and I always know there are things I can do differently to make it better for our tenants and our owners. And I was planning on, I was planning on going to some conventions, some national property management conventions. And 2020 was when we were going to start doing it, and those kind of were put on hold. But looking for ways to improve is something I take criticism and I want to build from it. If we're doing something that's not, up to par, or, people like it done a different way, I'll look at changing. I try to, I can't adapt for every single owner, but I try to adapt as much as I can for each owner, because they own the property and they like things a certain way, and I'll try to work with them. Right. So being more organized and being, using our time more wisely can allow me to make some changes.
Now tell me about the short-term rental market and what that's done to your business, if it affects it at all. Because a lot of owners are saying, hey, instead of getting $1,000 a month for this property, I can get $2,400 a month for this property.
Doing Airbnbs.
Yeah, have you seen a lot of that in neighborhoods?
We manage some. Mm-hmm. We do manage some Airbnbs, and they were doing great for a while, and then they really got impacted at COVID. Because people weren't traveling. So, but it's picking up. I have. It makes you see, it's going to get $2,500 a month, but there is a lot more to it. A lot more going into the management side. It's day to day. You got to have somebody on call basically 24/7 to answer emergency calls for the tenant got in at 11 at night. So the management rate you're going to pay is going to be a little bit more.
Sure.
But the sky's the limit. You really could. Some of these could really be big money makers for people.
Right.
Now remember, you got to go furnish these. You got to replace
Clean
furniture. You have to clean them all the time. You treat it like a hotel, basically.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
you're spending more money on it, but certain neighborhoods are really, Cooper Young, Overton Square, some downtown, there's really built to be Airbnbs. So, we actually we've brought somebody in that's going to start working with us on managing Airbnbs specifically.
Yeah, we've done really well with specifically our vacation properties. We've got one in Hot Springs, Arkansas, that does great. It really to the point where it could be booked all the time. But we keep those prices just a little bit higher, because for us, we would rather have someone in there who's paying a good rate for it to be in there, who's kind of appreciating the property and taking care of it, rather than having that churn and burn.
Turnover,
which can be rough on the property. And then we've got one in Fort Walton Beach that's done really well also. So I think between those two, they'll do about $150,000 in revenue, just two properties in 2021.
That's impressive.
And so when you've got that ability, especially a lot of the people who are listening to this podcast are wondering, like, hey, where do I put money? Why is real estate a good place to put money? It almost doesn't matter which way you go, whether it's short-term rental somewhere on a luxury spot, or you buy a group of houses in Memphis and turn them over to Morgan to run, you're going to make money.
Why, you just said why do I need to buy real estate? And I say you need to buy now because the prices are going up. A client just called and said she has a house in Cordova that she paid $145,000 for 6 years ago. She said, I want to buy another one in Cordova similar to that one, and maybe in a year. I said, no, you need to buy now, because the prices in Cordova and other parts of the Memphis market are really going up. I tell, everything, there's property management and owning rental property. It's not always good news, but the good far outweighs the bad. I had a client in 2014 bought a house down off in 38125 off Hacks Cross in Shelby Drive area. They bought a house. It was occupied the day they bought it. We just had a tenant move in. They've owned it for 6 years. It's never been vacant. They just sold it to another one of our investors. And so they had rent every single month. Not many maintenance issues, a few here and there. And so the mortgage every month was paid for, plus the $300 or $400 they were making on cash flow. And then they sold it, and the house had appreciated $65,000. And they, cost them nothing. And he made, not only the cash flow, but the $65,000 to walk away. So, there are so many good news stories and feel good stories, but there can be some hiccups and you can deal with some headaches, but in the long run, the property appreciation, and I say in Memphis, it's not like other markets that have the rapid appreciation, but it has been very nice and steady, and it's been fairly rapid over the last few years. But also, when there's a downturn in the economy, Memphis doesn't take such a hit on property values either. Right. You may have maybe you may have more foreclosures and stuff, but they never, you're not going to have that losing $100 or $200 or $300,000 in my home value.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people trip up when they buy rental property, or maybe they buy one or two, or they have three, and you talk about the headaches, but that's what you pay Morgan for.
That's what I deal with.
Yeah, but you let Morgan deal with the headaches for your percentage, and it's literally hands off. It's the most passive income that you can create for yourself.
It really can be. I mean, might sound bad. I have one owner that I've never talked to in 6 years. And, we've corresponded via email on a few things, but there haven't been any issues to deal with. It's been occupied for 6 years. It's been a constant just cash flow for him. And I mean, I have a really good relationship. That's one thing that I think with River City, I have a good personal relationship with each owner. And I get to know them. I talk to them a lot. And I try to, sometimes I got to call with bad news, but I also love calling with good news because, whenever an owner answers his phone, especially if I call them on the weekend, they'll answer the phone. You can hear that hesitancy in their voice. Hello, what's broken? I said, nothing. I'm just calling to tell you we just signed a year extension and the rent went up $100, So I like to give the good news too, as opposed to just a quick email. Sometimes a quick email is fine. People are busy. They might not be able to talk. But sometimes, especially if you're dealing with an issue, there's a lot that a phone call can do compared to an email. Yeah. And so I like that, to set up a time that I have 15 or 30 minutes that I can talk directly with the owner and I'm not, off doing something else or distracted. I want to give them my time. Because I'm their eyes and ears here. Most of them have never been to Memphis. Most of our out-of-town owners, I do love when they come to Memphis because I feel like I have a better relationship with them. So we had a year where no one came, and about 2 weeks ago, one of my great owners out in Utah came to Memphis and was here, got to tour all his houses, and it was he got to meet all his tenants, and it was real nice. He brought them all gift cards for letting us come and walk through the house, and they were very appreciative. But it's nice getting that personal relationship with the owners when they get to come to town. Yeah,
and that's, again, what this show is all about today. I wanted to talk about networking because your ability to build relationships with people goes beyond just knowing them. It goes beyond just saying, hey, this is what I do for a living. You've got to be able to connect with these people so they want to do business with you. Mm-hmm. What does that ask look like when you say, hey, Alex, give me a house to manage?
Well, I don't know. Alex, do you have a house I can manage? Is that something you've got some extra
rental property? If you've
got
some for sale, man, you got to bring it my way. Yeah, we've got 7 or 8 rental properties here in town.
So we'll get the management agreement done on those here soon. That'll be nice. No, I ask people to trust me. I treat their property like I would my own property. I use the same vendors that are doing work there that I would use at my house. I rent to the same people that I would rent to my house. And most owners, great relationship. You can't see eye to eye with everyone. So occasionally an owner and I disagree on certain things. Yeah. But in the long run, it ends up working out. Yeah. After we talk and, we may still agree to disagree, but we both like each other, and they understand, my thoughts, and I understand their thoughts, and maybe there's a happy medium. But, it's so, the referral base that I have is so great and I never, I always have to respect it and appreciate it. But I haven't been out, we've never done any advertising. I've never been out trying to, I get the referral and I call and talk to them, and they're, happy to work with us, and I'm happy to work with them. But maybe I do need to call and start just asking around, because I don't know who all of our friends own rental houses, and they might know that I'd want to manage like 2 or 3 of their houses.
Right.
It's
a volume game for you guys.
It is, but I mean, I would, I would gladly, if it's the right property, take somebody that just has one house. The problem can be, is when you have an owner that is stuck being an owner. Like, they had a house, their wife got divorced, they both moved, they've got this house sitting here that they can't afford the mortgage payment, they have to rent it. Because when you have an owner that can't afford the mortgage payment if the tenant is late in rent, it's a big problem. Because then what happens if they need a new roof, they need a new hot water tank, they need a new HVAC, they need a new furnace?
Right.
It's going to be a real challenge. And the people sign a lease with River City Land Company, and they're Morgan Tate. They don't know who the owner is. Right. So when you have an owner that, tenants sometimes are late on paying rent. And if that's going to make you late on your mortgage payment, that's a problem. Right. And so sometimes you just can't take on certain properties. Right. I want somebody that wants to be a landlord, that wants to be an owner, right, and that's in it for the right reasons. Yeah. So that's, very important.
Yeah. How often do and how do you handle those major, HVACs out? What's that cost look like? Is it home warranties? Is it vendor relationships?
No, vendor relationships is very important. I mean, we have our in-house maintenance. We have a roofer that we always use, a heating and air guy that we use, an electrician we use, a drain guy we use, a garage door guy we use, old Christian Brothers alumni.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Justice. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Jeff, yeah.
So, we have this relationship that, I trust them, and we send the jobs out to get done, and they get done, and they're very reasonably cost, for the owner. And I know that in 6 months, if there's an issue and it's a warranty issue, I'll call my roofer. Right. Right. I'll call Joe Young at Ability Roofing, and he'll come out there and take care of the issue. Right. Because I have that relationship. In fact, Joe introduced my wife and I. So,
okay. Very cool.
So, but having that relationship with the vendors is extremely important. I couldn't do it without all these vendors. Yeah.
So where do you see your business in the next 3 to 5 years? How do you continue to grow? Where do you want to grow? What's the goal?
Well, it's with inventory being what it is right now, it's hard to find stuff. So we've expanded. We're doing a lot of new construction in Atoka and Munford and Millington. We've expanded. We're doing new construction. Our buyers are buying out in Oakland. And then we're getting our Mississippi license. We can expand down. I mean, why not open up Olive Branch and South Haven? It's 2 large suburbs of Memphis that right now we're not managing in, but we are getting our real estate license. We should have it very soon to start doing all the North Mississippi suburbs. So we've got the clients that we want property. Finding it is a challenge. It's for anybody, whether you're buying rental properties or just buying, your own house. It's prices are up and inventory's low. So we're, as we grow, and I can't put a number, but I mean, I'd say 100, 125 houses a year, over the next 3 to 5 years. And the key thing for that is, as I'm growing in the properties, I've got to add more people in the office. I've got to make sure that we're continuing with the service that our buyers from 2014, when we had 25 houses, are used to. Right. And I don't ever want anybody to feel forgotten. Right. Sometimes I'll mess up on something, but I want them to still feel like they're not a number. They're a friend and a client. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, which goes all back to the theme of the show, which is networking and making sure that the people that you're doing business with are more than just a person to you or a number or a paycheck to you, that they're truly part of your network, that's a give and take relationship, and that you're taking care of people the same way that they're taking care of you.
Right.
And then it's just circular, right? It all starts to come around. Everybody's taking care of everyone. And that's why, again, I think Memphis has always been such a great market to do business in because, people really care about each other down here. And when you have a tenant who, is taking care of your property and and then they call you and they've got an issue and, you're over there to fix it right away and you're aware of what their needs are, there's a really nice back and forth reciprocal relationship that happens there. And then when they've got a friend that needs a house, they're saying, hey, call them to find it.
Very, very important what you said there. One of my big things I tell owners, I say my number one goal is is protecting their investment in the property. And it's a lot of money they've spent, and I've got to protect that. But keeping a good, cordial, nice relationship with the tenants is very important. Because when it's time to move, I want them to re-sign. I don't want them to move. And so often I'll ask people why they're moving from their other property, and they say because they don't take care of maintenance. So taking care of maintenance is extremely important. Timely maintenance. I mean, when somebody tells me they didn't have an AC for all of July in Memphis, or their roof had been leaking for 4 months and nothing ever addressed, we've got to take care of maintenance in a timely manner. And that's why, once again, having those vendors that you trust that are very reasonable and take care of things are so important. But keeping that relationship with the tenants too is because if the house is vacant, they gotta, the owners have utility bills again. They gotta paint, they gotta steam clean carpets, they gotta pay the yard bills, they gotta, everything that goes with a vacant property, you gotta pay us to rent it again. Right. So the long-term retention rate of tenants I take pride in that. Right. I love signing a 7th and 8th year. And, a lot of times you got to go up in rent, and we try to do gradual increases. But this year, most of my owners in agreement with me, if you had a tenant that paid great throughout all of COVID and it's time to renew, a lot of times we would be doing a small increase. But this year I've advised most owners that let's lock them in for another year, no increase. Because they've been, it's been tough on everything. Yeah, it's been tough for everyone. Right. And most tenants are just greatly appreciative. Even if we had a built-in increase in their lease, we may go back and not do it. Right. And so they appreciate it.
That's awesome. Well, this has been great. I've really enjoyed it. I really appreciate you joining me and kind of talking through what your company does. And I think it's just a huge opportunity, especially for a lot of people listening to this podcast who want to get into real estate investment, where it's very turnkey to call Morgan, call your company. And, whether that's go out and find you the properties to buy and manage for you, you guys can do that. Or if you've already got properties you want to manage, you guys can do that as well. And like you mentioned, you can even build properties, sell them to them to turn around and manage. So there's tons of opportunity within your company, and I encourage people to reach out to you. I always love to end the show with something fun that I call 3 things. So what 3 things is, I'm going to give you 3 things, and you got to choose one that you want, one that you got to discard, so you can't do anything with it, and then the other you got to give away.
Okay.
So 3 things. Here they go. The first one, I'll always give this to everybody, is $10 million. The second one for you is going to be a championship ring for UT football. Not a pass. That'll be a future championship ring. So you're going to get the ring. That means they got to win it. So you'll see what you do with that one. And then the last one is 1,000 properties in North Mississippi that you own outright. So your choice here, you get to choose one you want. You got to discard one, and then you got to give one away. And you got $10 million, 1,000 properties in North Mississippi that you own outright, or a championship ring for UT.
Well, I mean, football's a game, okay? This is still very hard. I would give away the $10 million. I would keep the 1,000 houses, and I would, unfortunately, as sad as, if there were 4 options, I would obviously take Tennessee winning a championship. I think they're going to win one. I think we're right there. We're right on the cusp. We've been, rebuilding for better part of
years.
it. Yeah, since about 04. 05 maybe. No, we went to the SEC championship game I think once in the last 17 years. So I'd keep the 1,000 houses. I'd give away the $10 million, and I'd have to, unfortunately, sadly, pass on the Tennessee ring, which I think we'll get it anyway.
All right, there it is. So you're giving away $10 million. Who are you giving it to? All one place, or are you divvying it up amongst
divvying it out.
Yeah, I would do the same thing.
Divvying
I would
it
definitely
out, take
give
care of
away
my
$10 million.
parents, my in-laws, my brother,
I would do the
family
same
members, and then the 1,000 houses is worth well over $10 million.
Long term, it would definitely be. Yeah.
So, and they're all fully paid for.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
And they're probably in that $200,000 to $400,000 range.
Yeah, even if they're just at the $200,000 range. Yeah, no, I'm good.
You'd be set. Huh?
Yeah, no, this is good. Good news. I mean, I'm really looking forward to North Mississippi.
Yeah, I mean, what a great area to bet.
I mean,
on.
it's our buyers are real excited.
I bet. Yeah, awesome. And Morgan, tell people how they can find you.
Yeah. Best way to reach us is calling the office 901-756-0808. We're over on William Arnold, right down the street from Folks Folly, and but yeah, 901-756-0808.
Morgan, this was great. You don't want to miss the next episode of Biz School, so please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on social media at the Alex Raz and punch that 5 stars. Help me grow this thing. That's all for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me. It means a lot, and the rest is history.